An Airbus A320 goes off the course while on final approach to runway 05. The confused crew were dependent on ATC to guide them towards the runway. Abnormal rate of descent and a wrong turn. January 1992. Air Inter was operating its regular flight from Lyon in southeastern France to Strasbourg. On board the flight were 90 passengers and 6 crew members. And the aircraft was a state-of-the-art Airbus A320, which was the most technologically advanced airliner of its time. In the command of the flight was Captain Christian Hequet, who was 42 years old, with experience of 8,806 flying hours, of which 162 hours were on Airbus A320. The first officer was Joel Cherubin, who was 37 years old, with an experience of 3,615 flying hours, of which 61 hours were on Airbus A320. Even though both pilots were experienced, both of them were new for Airbus A320.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
Air Inter Flight 148 departed from Lyon without any notable events and headed north for about its 50-minute flight to Strasbourg. It was winter season. Weather in Strasbourg was overcast with rain and was snowing at higher elevations. The flight proceeded normally until it reached near Strasbourg, and the crew began to plan their descent. In that time, Strasbourg Airport had 2 runways, runway 05 and runway 23. And only runway 23 had an instrument landing system which could guide the plane all the way down to its threshold. And at that time, the active landing runway was 05, which required a non-precision approach. Air Inter pilots rarely flew this type of approaches, so Captain Hequet was not comfortable about it. So he made a plan that he will approach to runway 23 using ILS, then do the circling approach on runway 05 when he had the runway in sight. The co-pilot Cherubin began to configure the computer to execute non-precision approach on runway 05. But the captain mentioned his plan after Cherubin had configured the flight computer for runway 05. At this point, he overrode Cherubin's previous inputs. The captain means here that such an approach would require a loop back away from the airport, which would add 10 minutes to the flight. But this was not in fact true. Because he already informed Flight 148, the ATC assumed that the aircraft will perform a non-precision approach into runway 05. So he began to give them instruction for approach. ATC cleared the flight to proceed to the Anlo waypoint. But the captain was surprised. When they reached Anlo, the controller cleared the Flight 148 for a non-precision approach to runway 05. And the captain never intended to land straight onto runway 05, as well as they were too high to land. Now, the first officer informed the controller of their intention. Then the controller replied that if Flight 148 performed an ILS approach to runway 23, followed by a visual approach to runway 05, they would have to hold because of traffic waiting to take off on runway 05. So the captain agreed to loop back around to Anlo for a non-precision approach. Now ATC was guiding the aircraft. Flight 148 made a 180-degree left turn from right above the runway 05, and crew started preparing flight computer for approach. The captain calculated that once they will align with the runway, the descent angle would be 3.3 degrees. Then ATC instructed them to turn left onto a heading of 090, followed quickly by a command to turn to 051 degrees to line up with the runway. The captain immediately followed the instructions. Captain did not respond. The aircraft was now heading towards the airport, but slightly to the left of the approach path. The crew began the next stage of their descent. To do that, crew have to enter the previously calculated flight path angle of minus 3.3 degrees into the flight computer. The aircraft was in heading mode, so the crew needs to switch the mode to flight path angle mode and enter the flight path angle in it. But here captain forgot to press the mode change button. Then he used input knob to enter minus 3.3 degrees. But the system was in vertical speed mode. His entry of minus 33 was read as minus 3300 feet per minute instead of minus 3.3 degrees. The aircraft was on a collision course with the mountain ahead.
Minimum 200. 100 above. 100.
The aircraft crashed in a Vosges mountain near Mount Saint Odile, killing 87 of 96 people on board. The investigation was done by Bureau of Inquiry and Analysis for Civil Aviation Safety, France. According to the investigators, the controller's guidance did not place the aircraft in a correct position. The crew started descent with very high vertical speed and failed to correct the abnormal high rate of descent. The absence of ground proximity warning system deprived the crew of a last chance of being warned of the gravity of the situation. And the design of the autopilot vertical modes controls could have contributed to the creation of the accident situation. After this accident, Airbus modified the interface of the autopilot so that a vertical speed settings would be displayed as a 4-digit number, preventing confusion with the flight path angle mode. This much for today. If you are watching until now, then please support us by liking the video and by subscribing the channel. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.